I understand you now, Megami Fushiguro. My apologies for the delay. What's up, guys? Pencil here, and here we are to do a breakdown / review, a quick review for chapter 266 of Jujutsu Kaisen, which is known as the Slice of Bell and the Uninhabited Demon Physician Juku, part 37. I know I'm going back in time. This is weird, but I kind of do want to talk about this chapter still, even in spite of the fact that 267 has come out and I have reviewed it both in short form and long term. I do want to talk about this one because this is kind of the Megami chapter, and I do want to give Megami his due credit. He's the deuteragonist of the series, basically. I guess you could argue the deuteragonist is maybe Gojo? Maybe. But I'd say it's Megami. And I do want to give this character his due respect, his due highlights, his due credits, considering this chapter did change my mind on him quite drastically. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Heading me. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do mean to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact. We got 4 minutes to break down 4 things. The plot, the characters, the scaling, and the future. And funnily enough, I can actually still do a future one based on this one, despite me already having read and reviewed 267, because there's still some stuff up in the air. So let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into the plot. Now, the biggest plot progression of this chapter is naturally that Megami has decided to reach out. Like, this is huge, because you gotta realize, technically, if this had happened 267, maybe? Is it just 10 chapters? No way, it's just 10 chapters. I want to say 257, but I feel like that's wrong. 256. When did Yuta show up? Essentially, when Yuta and Yuji were jumping Sukuna, if Megami was actually there, like, willing to reach his hand out, they could have ended this way back then. Yuta wouldn't have been bisected, Yuji and Yuta would have been fine, Choso would still be alive. Like, so many things would have changed if this plot progression happened earlier. So despite the overall plot not progressing too much, in the sense that by the end of this chapter, Yuji and Sukuna are still in fact throwing hands to a point of extreme varieties, and neither one has exactly gone down, and we're still in Yuji's domain, and at this point, Sukuna's still holding Hollow Wicker Basket, in fact goes to get his domain back at the very end of the series, or at the very end of the chapter, because he got his curse technique back, because he decided to refresh that bad boy, because Yuji was putting them paws on him. The biggest progression is that Megami Fushiguro has actually decided to, hey, wait, please, don't leave me behind. Save me. I'm sorry, Sensei. And he's willing to reach out. This is gargantuan because it also changes the game, despite not really changing the game, considering what this chapter was initially about. At first, this chapter kind of opened up with Yuji being like, dude, I get it. Rough stuff, buddy. I went through that too. So rough stuff, in fact, buddy, that I'm not even gonna force you to try and live. Deuces. The moment that happened, that's technically a major plot shift, because that means Yuji's mindset has changed, and he's going off the mentality he mentioned in 265, where he's like, hey, yo, Sukuna. Hey, little bro, I can't kill you right now. I could end you right this instant if we really talk about like that. So obviously that mentality that I was about to make a horrible joke, but that mentality where he had a certain sort of motion on his mind, that is a big plot shift. And then Megami's desire to not end up being part of that plot shift and his return is a major plot point. That, once again, kind of opens the door to a couple things that I will talk about more in the future section, but the fate of Sukuna is simultaneously up in the air, yet super decided now. Like, no matter what, Sukuna was going to be defeated, right? But the fate and how he was going to be defeated has changed. Who knows what Yuji would have done if Megami had decided to not reach out, if he had decided to really keep his hand pulled back. Maybe Yuji would have gone for something more lethal, if he had anything more lethal. That's really the question, really, considering he does have his whole gauntlet slashed apart and is revealed to be fighting with literally 2 fingers. And of course, I guess this is the other plot progression, the idea that Yuta was in fact bluffing. There is one final finger laid out. One final finger. Man, the copium. Oh, the copium. Oh, I think legitimately over 166 chapters of copium. That's that plot point. The fact that the finger's still there and the unlimited amount of copium. And once again, it's just another finger that Yuji's going to have to consume, because, like I mentioned earlier, it's the idea of what Sukuna's fate is going to be. Either he's going to be executed himself, like Yuji's going to separate him and just, I don't know, beat him to a pole, I guess, or he's going to be resealed back inside of Yuji, and of course this final finger, and the other fingers that something or another may happen to split up or something of the sort, will also just be and you're just gonna have delicious Sukuna fingers. I call them chicken fingers, but they're basically Sukuna fingers, and we're good. So overall, a really good chunk of plot progression in this chapter. I give it a solid, like, in terms of just the scale and the importance of Megami deciding to help out and fight back and reach out his hand. That's like a 5 out of 5 alone. This is one of the most major bits of plot progression we've had since, like, major character executions, and even then, the only major character execution we've had so far is, like, Gojo. But let me move on to the next part, scaling. So this chapter sort of perpetuates a certain idea. Now, of course, the issue with the perpetuation of this idea is it's really hard to tell how good this Sukuna is. Because physically, he's fine. Right? Like, physically, he's perfectly fine, to the point where it's a big point in 264 that he got his RCT output back. He was mollywopping Yuji. But notably, now that Yuji's in his own domain and domain buff, while he does get knocked away and punched around a bit, he still does engage well enough with Sukuna while not healing any of his wounds to actually stagger him, actually knock him back, actually do damage, and force Sukuna to keep on healing when they're back to the equivalent of the 2-on-2 hands instead of the 4v2 where Sukuna was dominating. And notably, we have this interaction where the two are portrayed as basic equals. While Yuji is domain buffed admittedly, and Sukuna is weaker, considering, you know, he's taking all these soul punches and they're doing nothing but straight damage to Sukuna's soul. It's something he himself mentions. The fact that they're able to go even, it's still intriguing. And in fact, we get a very interesting statement scaling-wise, where Sukuna says, "I knew it. Reverse curse technique can't keep up with the boy's punches. And Hollow Wicker Basket. Oh, and Hollow Wicker Basket isn't gonna last." So, ultimately, because of how much damage, both soul and physically, he's doing with his punches, he's actually wearing down the Sukuna, who had his RCT output restored after numerous black flashes. Now, once again, it comes to the question, does this mean that Yuji's relative to Sukuna 100%? And thusly, he should now, at least stat-wise, be the third strongest character in the verse? I don't know. It's still weird. Once again, it comes down to the question of how much of this is valid. How much of this is Sukuna just being super duper uber duper weak and his output being in the garbage because Yuji kept punching him. The only thing that's confirmed to have been restored by the Black Flashes is that Sukuna got a new path to his domain expansion and the restoration of his RCT output. That is it. It's not implied that his regular curse technique output or his regular physical output or his regular general physical control is fully back to normal. And then, of course, Yuji hits him a whole bunch of times to knock it down even lower if it ever was getting close to back to normal. So, ultimately, it's really hard to tell how much of this is genuine fatigue but domain buff Yuji relativity to Sukuna, and thusly gives Yuji credence to jump up a bunch, like top 5 a bunch, because a lot of people are still dancing around where Yuji should scale because of how vague his interactions with Sukuna are. It's one of, I'd say, the best and worst parts of this back chunk of the series, where, like, we only have Sukuna to skill characters 2 for this endgame part of the series, relative to each other, and obviously relative to Sukuna, but Sukuna's own mentality and how much that affects his curse energy output, to the amount of fatigue and damage he's accrued, to his lowered curse energy output from interaction with Yuji, to Yuji's own fatigue and how much his domain is amping him versus how much it's debuffing Sukuna, and how much curse energy Sukuna is putting in the Hollow Wicker Basket. It's all so vague. But to give you a high end, this would just be Yuji is relative to Sukuna with 2 arms. Like, straight up, relative to the stronger variation of Sukuna with 2 arms. They're essentially pure equals here. There's basically no other way to interpret this panel, except even, if anything, you could argue Yuji is superior to this Sukuna who's forced to hold Hollow Wicker Basket, because his RCT output cannot keep up, and ultimately he needs to resort to restoring his burnt out curse technique with that risky path that he didn't want to take earlier on in the chapter. Meaning Yuji forced him to do that. And Sukuna was convinced that in a hand-to-hand brawl, he was not going to overcome Yuji, being that this Yuji is relative to a full RCT output healthy Sukuna. He's top 3. Only behind Satoru Gojo and Sukuna himself. Or a fully healthy Sukuna. Or nothing's changed. Because once again, this is a super nerfed Sukuna who Yuji keeps nerfing. And you keep Yuji wherever you put him. If you already had him in top 3, then that's fine. But if you have him in top 5, that's also fine. If you had him in top 10, that's also fine. If you don't have current Yuji in top 10, you're just being mean. I'm just going to say it. You're just being mean. But let's move on to the characters. So, the thing I like about this chapter, the big thing, the hefty thing that I mentioned all the way at the start of this review, is that this chapter actually made me finally understand Megami. Now, I have friends who don't like Itadori. They think this guy's boring, whack, stupid, ugly, shouldn't be the MC. A lot of people have him like that. Personally, I love Itadori. But on the flip side, where they never understood why I loved Itadori, despite how many times I tried to explain it to him, how much I like his thematics, they love Megami. And I never got that. I always found him kind of boring. Like, I don't just call him Potential Man because of the meme, but it sure didn't help. I just really found him uninteresting, natural, almost normal, to the point where if you asked me to compare him to a lot of other new gen Deuteragonists, I'd be like, do you want the honest answer? Because he'd be super low on the list. Thinking of your popular ones like your Bakugos or your Akis, or you're thinking of less popular ones like your Ferns, and that is such an... I mean, people... Not favorite most popular. Like, of your Ferns, or possibly... I guess technically Himmel could be a Deuteragonist, the favorite. But still, there are other things and other series with different types of Deuteragonists that I all like more. You can do a whole list of Deuteragonists that I prefer from other series before I got to Megami. But now, this chapter finally let me understand Broski a little bit. Megami is a regular guy in an irregular world. Let me repeat that one more time. Megami Fushiguro is an irregular guy. Or no, he's a regular guy in an irregular world. AKA, he didn't want Amnesty. He didn't want to be Potential Man. He didn't want to be the legacy of the 10 Shadows. He didn't want to be the next Hidden Clan head. And I don't know how it leapt over my head. We have so many instances of him talking about how he just wanted a normal life. I just wanted to enjoy his life as Samuki. I just wanted to see Samuki happy. And possibly even spend time with Itadori, and ultimately how he feels that negativity has hit him all. Finally understanding Megami, that link that just didn't click before, finally, like two Lego pieces finally clicking together. I finally get it. Megami's just a dude who didn't want any of this. And it finally hit me. The tragedy of Megami Fushiguro is beautiful and poignant, considering how deeply steeped the world is in irregularity. The fact that he's a regular man, talented for irregularity, despite not wanting to be. Beautiful. I love the character contrast. That's fantastic. That's juicy. That's scrumdiddly. My toes are in fact just a little bit curled right now. They're max curled. But the other thing I like is that Yuji accepts it. He's like, dude, I understand wanting to give up. I'll let you go, bro. And the fact that he's willing to accept Megami. A lot of other MCs would be like, no, Megami, you can't give up. I refuse to let you. And Yuji was kind of like that throughout the entire run of the Shinjuku Showdown. The fact that they were still trying to save him after a while started to get ludicrous. But the fact that Yuji finally accepted it, that's nice. That's a fantastic character moment for Yuji, where he's like, dude, I get it. Trust me, you've been through a lot, and I get why you don't want to keep moving forward, and I'm not going to make you. Fine, I'll let you go. But I also love that the second that Megami realizes that, oh, wait a second, he's not kidding. He's really, wait, what's with that look? It's lonely without you, Fushiguro. The moment he realized that Yuji was actually about to pack him up, that woke him up. Showing that Megami Fushiguro deep down always had the will to live, always had the power to fight back. Despite being a regular man in an irregular world, due to his talent in that irregular world, he could help fight back. He could help save himself, and he still wants to live. This is the equivalent of Robin's moment for One Piece, except completely different in every single way possible. But still, that kind of desire to live and keep moving forward and to keep fighting for one's life, beautiful. Chef's kiss. Scrumdiddlyumptious. I eat it for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack on the side. It's wonderful. But with that being the case, that character works fantastic. This is the Megami chapter. It's the main reason I wanted to review it, because that's the big thing that I like so much. I like that I finally understand Megami. Fully and wholeheartedly, and I can't even get mad at Broski anymore. He's still Potential Man, but he's a good Potential Man. But let's talk about finally the future. So, the real question now is, what is going to be the fate of Yuji and Sukuna? The duo specifically. I'd say their fate is what's up in the air. Because of course, remember, 265 ends with Yuji being like, Broski, you can either come back to me willingly, I'm gonna pack you up. And of course, Yuji's struggling to pack him up a little bit, but still, that was on the table. Now it's kind of off the table. So the question is Yuji going to go for the Slaughter Sukuna route? Separate the barrier between Megami and Sukuna's souls enough, and then he's just going to keep punching Sukuna's soul until it doesn't exist anymore, and then I guess go consume the remaining finger that was revealed at the end of the chapter, and then either slaughter that Sukuna too by soul punching himself, or something of the sort, or is he just going to slaughter him? The real question of the future is, will Kenjaku be right? Or will Kenjaku's philosophy about the cycle of curses and cursed energy being allowed to continue as long as the continued existence of Itadori and Sukuna presides, will he be correct? Will the cycle of curses continue, or will the cycle of curses end? Is Yuji Itadori going to be the anomaly, the eye of the storm, the one to finally lay claim and calmness to the entire chaotic world that is Jujutsu Kaisen, or is he going to perpetuate the cycle, but ultimately give punishment to Sukuna? Because that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people fail to realize this, or not even fail to realize it, because I fail to realize it too, but don't think about it enough. The idea that slaughtering Sukuna is kind of what he would want. If he were to ever lose to Yuji, as he admitted all the way back in the Yorozu fight, hey, I lose, I die. It's off me, bro. Meanwhile, ultimately, Sukuna's death, quote unquote, would be a liberation. It would be a freedom. If anything, it'd be a gift, just in the way that Satoru Gojo's death, in a roundabout way, especially based on how you read 236 and how you approach the character on a reread or an analysis. Technically, the death that Satoru Gojo received was a gift to him, because he was finally reached, finally understood. And Ryomen Sukuna is someone who's long since understood humanity, but was never reached. Him being reached and him being liberated from the loss and going to wherever he would go, whether it be the airport, the subway, or I don't know, the underworld. With that being the case, that would be freedom. And while Yuji does believe in the freedom of humanity and understands that Sukuna has played a large role in his life, both positive and negative in many different ways, I wonder if he's going to go down that route of liberating Sukuna or enchaining him, caging him, making Sukuna live out the rest of his days inside of Yuji. Because ultimately, in my opinion, that would be the ultimate punishment for Sukuna. Him being forced to sit there for the rest of Yuji's presumably regular long life and watch him live and be happy with all the different people that Yuji now has to live with and is able to live with now that the battle against Sukuna is finally over, now that the merge is not happening, now that Kenjaku's dead, now that everything's available. The future question, the biggest one that lingers in my dome piece and has me excited and worried, is what is the fate of Sukuna? Because he's going to lose, of course. But the aftermath of his loss is the most interesting thing. The uncertainty of that is the most interesting thing. And what Yuji's ultimate choice is the most interesting thing. Yuji Itadori values life. He values it arguably more than any other character in the series that we know is still alive at this point. But with that being the case, what about Sukuna's life? Would he liberate him? Would he free him? Would he grant him the sweet release of death? Which sounds crazy to say, but it would be the sweet release for Sukuna. Or would he encage him and chain him in order to make him pay back everything that he's taken and everything that Yuji's lost? I don't know. But I'm very, very, very excited to find out. We only have 5 chapters left after this one. JJK will end on chapter, 267, 268, 269, 270, 271. JJK is going to end on chapter 271. We're in the end game now. And the end game is oh so exciting. But I'm out of time. Do you guys want me to do a long review? Because I did speed through the Megami character section. I do want to read some of his dialogue. So I may do a long review on this one anyway, just for the fun of it, and to have the completion, the last couple chapters of JJK fully documented on the channel. Let me know. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, though, please do me a favor and leave Shatterpoint. Leave Shatterpoint in the comment section down below. And thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure that the notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 double things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Those perks will include the live reaction to this very chapter, ad-free reactions of all my videos, and to become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below, where you can drop 5 beans for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Zera, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, NMA, Real Rare, Redwolf 4765, Paris Arnold, Astro, and Brandon Payne. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Zombie Hunter, Sean, Midnight Lord 21, King, Meliodas, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, and A+A. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $7 members: Autumn, Mornings, Lazo, and Fine. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members: Robbie Uchiha, Jay Warrior, and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a big ol' thank you to our $10 patrons: Michael Williamson, Joaquin Munoz, and Idem Okami.
And I'd like to have a final Genshu, and thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.